Hey guys, my name is Hasher and I am a user experience designer, meaning I design and develop apps and websites for clients across the world. Now, although this isn't my job description or my company's slogan or anything like that, I have worked on a lot of social media platforms, meaning I have developed social networking platforms for clients. Now, because those applications belong to my clients rightfully so, I will not feel comfortable sharing those links with you. Now, if you find them, then that's another thing. Now, with that said, I also wanted to say that some of the things I will talk about in this video are related to my situation. Now, I deleted Instagram and Facebook. For some of you people, that might be the only social networks that you care about. For some of you, that might be the social networks that you don't care about. This applies to no matter which social media platform you are in today, and especially ones that are modern and are alive these days. So, with that said, I want to talk about mostly three social networks: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and maybe LinkedIn as well. But LinkedIn is that even a social network? Okay, the first thing is that I genuinely think that social media, because of social media, it has made me a better person. When I say better person, I mean that I'm able to empathize and understand different political spectrums, different worldviews, and different ideas. Well, when you are on any social media platforms, about 10 years ago, 13 years ago, when a lot of platforms like Facebook started to take shape, the goal they set out to do was to make this world a smaller place. The way they did that is by letting you connect with people you already knew. So those are your friends, your families, and acquaintances. So you knew somebody, you befriend them on Facebook, and then you become really good friends. You saw somebody, so you basically need acquaintances, so or at least people you already know. So those were social networking platforms, right? Back in those days. But today, they've become more of a content producing and content consumption platforms. Some of these are good, and some of these, in my opinion, are toxic. So, first thing is that I think social networking platforms, what they did is when they started to take shape, the way they made money because they are companies, they are employees, and they need to be paid at the end of the day, instead of charging you, the customer, and the user, what they did is they allowed advertisers to come and advertise on their platform. Well, why bring advertisers? Because for every impression, basically impression is when you look at the advertisement, the advertiser actually pays a very small fraction of money for every impression, and if you tap on the advertisement you get more money. So in order to bring more eyeballs, so basically what social media platforms did is in order to retain attention, they started to make algorithms that are designed to basically make you spend more time on their platforms. Why would you want to spend more time? Because you're looking at things or you're consuming things that you really want to hear, want to see. So for example, you really believe in something or you really like something, the social networking platforms will not only will throw content from the people you already chose to follow, but also will also suggest content that you might be interested in, based on the profile that you have. But the thing is that humans are not as complex, are not as simple as just the things that we like. Some of the time, social media platforms know more than what we know about ourselves. Now, for example, I like hockey. Hockey is not everything about me. So, for example, I like certain political candidate. I will receive more I'll receive more information about that political candidate and push me further into the political spectrum. So, if you are in the left, you'll be pushed further into the left. If you're in the right, you'll be pushed further into the right. You'll hear justifications as to why you are the only right thing and the left or the only left thing, right? So it's not to say that you shouldn't have political inclinations, but I think it's important to understand different sides and different worldviews, because if you are going to live in a society and if you're going to live in a place, you have to coexist and you have to identify a place where you can coexist. So if you want to coexist, you want to have a conversation. And to have a conversation, you need to have a more holistic picture, or at least understand and empathize with other people. Now, social networking platforms today are basically allowing third parties to infiltrate into your social networking feeds. And rightfully so, because they are the owner of these platforms. But because they want to make money, and because they are the owners of these platforms, they basically run the political, or not just political, but any conversation today. So not only do companies get to influence your decisions, but also do politicians actually get to influence your decisions. So one question that comes up is, how can we actually see what the real picture is? One is to understand different worldviews. And number two is to acknowledge that the view that the social media creates is absolutely fake and not so real. I'll give you an example, or how I sort of say this. If you go to Twitter and type any controversial keywords, you'll find a lot of keyboard warriors is some of the words that influencers use. So you'll find a lot of people writing hateful, negative things about people, ideas, whatever that is, right? But if you go meet those people, they're not as toxic as, or at least not as honest or not as brave as they seem on social media. So when you look at social media, it seems as though the world is just entering into a situation of World War III. I mean, if you especially if you're like right now, as of right now, when the U.S. elections are going on and when the results are being announced, there was a word being tossed around called doom scrolling. Basically, it's scrolling and reading all the negative news. Well, negative or positive, it's not the topic here. The real topic of conversation is, are you really able to understand, and what really is the purpose of being in a content consumption platform? Now, there's a difference between somebody shoving content on your face, and there's the other side where you consciously choose to consume those content. Now, obviously the line between this is being blurred every single day, because one or the other day, if you go to Netflix and you watch a particular series, towards the end of, let's say, your TV series or whatever, it says the next episode starting in 3, 2, 1, bam. That's a user, like, that's a decision that they made based on the understanding that we don't want to miss out on interesting stuff. So 3, 2, 1, the next episode starts, and they actually get you to binge watch um, things. So people can use psychology to actually either play against or to exploit yourself, or to play in the interest of your best selves. Now, with that said, I don't want to speak and say that everything in this world is doom and gloom. No, I became a little bit of bipartisan person, although I do have political inclinations, I do have ideological inclinations, I do have my biases, I do have those places, but I think that I understand better, because of social media, and because of the fact that I understand how these platforms today work. I can better inform you guys, and I can inform the people I care about, and I can inform myself and educate myself on what's real and what's not. Well, if you take Instagram photos are really dear to us, whether it be digital photos or physical photos. Well, take for example the photos of people you lost, or the people you really care about and are no longer with you now. If you take those photos, it takes you back to the back to those days, when the good old days, when you were happy with those people you care about, and so on and so forth. Well, imagine those moments being shared by every single person, like the hundreds of people you literally followed about a year ago, and your photos being literally broadcasted across, 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, 10 thousands of people. Well, what happens is, I just really want to ask you: is that really the projection of your real life. Well, a photo is a fixed moment. That's really not a projection of your real life. That's why celebrities, when they share the photos, they also have, most of the celebrities, in the interviews they talk about the fact that social media is not real, they're not real. But the same people who talk about this, if you go on the social networking platforms, you will find that the social media platforms is filled with glamorous and glitz. So that creates a question like, why is this so confusing and paradoxical? So so what are the advantages that I yielded out of, let's say, exiting out of Facebook and Instagram? Well, one thing, as I mentioned, is I learned to appreciate different worldviews, and two is I learned to accept myself. When I say accept myself, what I mean is I'm better able to tell that I'm better able to create content or think or tell things that are really true to me, or things that I know are true. Okay, for example, if you really are only going to be so politically inclined, you're only going to say things that people want to hear, not what's really true to you. So if you speak your truths, then people can correct you. You can know what exactly where you're wrong. So I think the world will be a better place if we can all speak the truth, right? So, but but when you say speak the truth, always cuts people. It can will divide people and all that stuff. It may not be the most sweet experience, but the truth is always much better. The experience of pain that you will go through by telling the truth is much better than, let's say, the experience that you will have by getting away by telling lies, right? So that's that. And the third thing, the advantage is that when people say don't care about what other people think, it's basically, in my opinion, is to accept the fake reality that social media presents us. So accepting the fake reality is the third benefit that I gained out of it. Lastly, I want to talk about things that have sort of played against my favor after I deleted my Instagram. Now, I am a hobbyist photographer. I spent 2 years in Sweden. For somebody who is originally from India, I found the nature and the people and the culture and everything around Sweden extremely beautiful. So I used to take a lot of photos. Now, I did not have a DSLR, or I wasn't a freelance photographer. I wasn't making money out of it, but it was something that I really, it was like a creative outlet. So I used to take photos, put them, and people really, most of them were nature photos, so they weren't photos about myself or anything. So a lot of photos were things like sun or whatever, so different perspectives. And a lot of people enjoyed those content. Some people obviously didn't. But whether or not it was something that it basically had, I enjoyed the experience personally of just taking photos. But obviously, where all of the people who consume photos are on Instagram and not on Unsplash or any of these platforms. I still have my photos, so if you really want to look at my photos and support me, you can go to unsplash.com/Hashir Muhammad to view my photos. You can also go to vsco.com/Hashir. I guess is the thing. If you don't, if it like just type my name Hashir Muhammad on Google, you I think will find me on Unsplash also. So you can find some of my photos there, and you can support me and follow me there. But with that said, I did lose the experience of sharing some of those, like say, those places like Sweden. Sweden is not the kind of country that most people visit. So I thought, okay, well, maybe at least people would like this kind of content. Maybe it's a thing that's not healthy, but nevertheless, it's something that I lose, right? Second thing, and probably the thing that I miss the most with platforms like Instagram and Facebook, is, let's say, maybe not your best friends, because your best friends are today. I contact them almost like every single week, every month, or at least on a regular basis, on other messaging platforms. But people whom I met let's say, acquaintances, people whom I don't meet as often, but people I generally care about, right? Like, for example, people I just went to I went to a venue, I attended a workshop, I attended a competition, I attended a hackathon, and I met some interesting people, and I wanted to connect with them, let's say 10 years from now, whatever. I may not be able to do so because the only people I'm in connect I connect with today are the people that are really either close to me or basically people who I really work with as of right now. So potential acquaintances basically get lost with deleting your social networks. So some of those friends could have become like potential friends 10 years from now, but they're no longer there. So that's the second demerit. And lastly, I want to talk about, two things. Okay, first thing, this is not applicable to me. Well, if you have children, then you're going to not be able to see what let's say, your children's are up to, and that's important that you see what your children's are up to, like not really following and stuff, but at least to see, like, if something like the Blue Whale app comes into picture, like, I don't know, what's the literacy level of your children and stuff. It obviously depends on different factors, but you need to find out a sweet spot in the balance where your kids can have a balanced, let's say, a balanced digital experience, I guess is the word, and having a safe experience. So if you can become really good friends with your kids, and if you can find out a way where you can respect their privacy, and if you can find out a way to be a part of their lives, then that's good. So if you're not a part of the social networking circles, there can be a potential demerit. But you might also miss out on some things which are important events of your really good friends. So for example, your best friend's birthday gets lost. I mean, how many people remember the best friend's birthday? But guess what? You'll be a better person than the person, like, you anonymously messaging some random acquaintances. If you remember those birthdays, because you're not basically in contact with 100 or 200 people on your Facebook friends, you're only in contact with 5 or 10 people that are really close to you. So when you're in contact with only 5 or 10 people, one of the things you'll do is you'll remember those people's birthdays, right? Like, or maybe not, but at least you'll remember when you'll constantly ask them. Next time you have a conversation, you can have a deep conversation, insightful conversation on what they're doing, why they're heading, what they believe in, and we could have, because one of the things that digital platforms sort of create this illusion is that we will know what they really believe in or thinking by simply just by looking at the social media platforms. One of the biggest, like, let's say, demerits of digital conversations is that it is very easy to disconnect with, or sort of walk away from an uncomfortable conversation in digital platforms. But if you're talking face to face or on video calls, it's it's not as easy to disconnect somebody. Like, if you have, let's say, a conversation with your friend, and you start talking about things, or about things that your friend is uncomfortable with, then your friend is not going to easily walk off. It's not going to be so easy to say no to, or just not respond to your messages. And those things are extremely sort of things that will add benefit to you once you leave. But the demerit, again, as I said, is that you will it may also affect your personal branding, in that you may you may not be able to talk about, okay, so I am this person, and come follow me. I am a business. Come, I mean, if you want to build a personal brand, if you want people to follow you or something like that, it's like create content on YouTube, in my opinion. I think platforms where people go and seek out for you individually, consciously, and not through any kind of forced advertising, that's much better in my opinion than trying to shove off content on everybody's faces when they don't really want to hear them. So with that said, I don't know. I feel like we need to have more humane platforms. And there's a Netflix documentary. Ironically enough, it's on in Netflix. Netflix is also a platform which sort of, in my opinion, it exploits a lot of our psychology. I mean, our things that they know things about ourselves, more than you know about yourself. So it uses a lot of concepts in psychology to basically to get our attention. Now, whether this attention is good or bad, sometimes that's just not in our control. In my opinion, that's toxic. With that said, guys, I hope this was insightful. If you want to delete your social networking platforms, I don't know. I think it's always good. I am on Twitter. I am not so active. You can follow me on Twitter. I don't know how long I will be there. The only reason I'm on Twitter is because I want to explore different ideas, new people. But I don't really post so much, and I don't really take Twitter conversations too seriously anymore. Like, I don't really think any kind of conversation on social networking platforms are really things that you need to make your whole worldview upon. So, because the reality of the world is much different from what's on social networking platforms, I use them sometimes for my business purposes. So, for example, a lot of tech companies are on Twitter and they announce the latest technologies, not only that, new features, things that are changed in their platform. So, for example, Bubble, Webflow, especially hashtag no code. So, I follow those people and the people in the industry and what they're doing, and I follow people who are making stuff so that I know what exactly I can do for you guys, what kind of new content I can do, what I can do for my clients, how I can change things, make things easy for my clients, customers, and my dear viewers. With that said, guys, subscribe to this channel if you like this video, and more videos will come out like this. And like this video because this helps the channel and the algorithm. And I shall see you guys in another video very soon.